to another episode, another installment, another service at the Church of Lovely, not your grandmama's church. This is not your grandmama's church. We are no longer living in your grandmama's world. We are not following our grandmama's morals and character and way of life, and we have barely any knowledge of our grandmama's grandmama spirituality and way of life. And we don't have that knowledge that is indigenous to the melanation, that knowledge that our grandmama knew, and the spirituality they followed. We don't have that because it was taken. It was purposely manipulated. It was destroyed. The knowledge was destroyed so that we could then be destroyed. And that's where we find ourselves now. The melanated nation, the so-called black race. And for the sake of whomever might come across these videos, the reasons that, and I'm one who I was raised in integration. I was raised to be inclusive. Who did not even intend to go here, but evidently this needs to be said. I was raised in the time of integration and always believe, oh, we're all alike and we all bleed red and we're 98% and blah, 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 blah. But what I have found out is that is not the case. We are not all alike, and the message that I have is specifically for myself and my brothers and sisters of the melanated race, especially those who are indigenous to this land. Ours is a very different message. Ours is a very specific message that cannot be conformed, pun intended on that word, to fit everyone's narrative. This is a very specific time for the so-called black race in America and for the melanated people, the melanation globally. And so that's what this church has come back for, to speak to. That is the message I have. That's the reason that I came here. That's the reason that I signed up for this incarnation. So I just want to be very clear about that, so that when I use the word, so that when I segregate us, when I say, well, for black people and for white people, or however the division comes up, it's a very, very specific reason for that. Okay. But the knowledge of our indigenous heritage, and I'm off track, but I'm gonna jump back on the train. The knowledge of we who are indigenous to this land was purposely destroyed, because that is how we then could be destroyed. That's why it says in Hosea that my people, this is the Most High talking, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And that is absolutely the truth. But I have good news. I'm so excited. And I realized I was listening to my last video, and I was tired, you guys. I will say that. I was like, oh my gosh, I sound like I'm half asleep. I actually was. I had worked all day with my client in Sedona. Shout out to King Elias. And but I still wanted to, stay on my commitment of 52 shows, 52 Sundays, 52 shows. And so I did it at the end of the day. As you can hear, I'm doing this at the beginning of the day when I still have energy, but I sounded so tired then. But I definitely saw the benefit of just being 100% authentic and 100% real with why I'm here and what this church is and who this church is for. It's for those of us who realize that we are not on, first of all, a level playing field, and we're not on the same field. And as time continues, this year we're going to see a real split. The first noticeable split we saw was in 2020 and 2021. That split, lovelies, is going to continue to widen until the point that there is not only will there be no question of whether or not there's two different worlds or there's a world and an earth, but we will also not even be able to, I believe, come to a time where we'll even be able to interact between the two. And I believe that that's probably in the next 7 years or so. Some people say that this is 7 years of tribulation that we stepped into right now. I'm not sure about all of that, and that's probably another video anyway. But let me get back. To today's to today's part 3 in the series, Playing the Field, because knowing that we're first of all playing on a field, knowing that this is a game, knowing that there are 2 different fields, and knowing how we can navigate what field we're on. First of all, knowing how to make the choice of what field we want to be on, because I still believe, some people believe the choice has already been taken, but I believe that we still have a choice. And I believe that because there are people that are waking up daily to the truth as the Spirit of the Most High continues to be poured out on all flesh. There are more and more of you who are waking up to the truth, and that's why I'm here on assignment. That's why Spirit would not let me rest and not do this service, because even if there's one person out there who can benefit from my story, from the journey I took from religion, from Christianity to spirituality, Christ consciousness, if I can make your journey easier than it was for me. It took me 11 years for Spirit to pull me out of religion. Y'all don't have that kind of time. So if I can tell you my story, and in sharing my story, help your story or help your journey be easier, that is why I am here. Okay? Because we are coming back into the knowledge that had been destroyed. And in order for that to happen faster, and in order for us to get our power back, people like me and thousands of other light workers like Wilders, truth speakers, and truth seekers are on the scene. Okay? Our knowledge, our wisdom, our spirituality, it has all been turned upside down by the deceiver. It has been inverted by the deceiver. And this has happened over hundreds and thousands of years. The lie has become the truth, and the truth is become the lie. And the lie is the lie is about to be destroyed, and that's the field that you're wanting to get off of. Okay, let's go to the foundational scripture for this build. It is Matthew 24, specifically verse 40, but I'm going to start at verse 36 for the context of verse 40. Matthew 24th chapter. Do I need to wait for y'all to get your Bibles? This is church. I remind myself this church. Let me go back. Now, y'all know I'm a PK too, so I can conduct a service in here. Matthew 24. Starting at verse 36 through 40. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, and sometimes that's spelled no, N-O-E, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and given into marriage, until the day that Noah, there it is, N-O-E, entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall 2 be in the field, the one shall be taken, and the other left. I'll read that last verse again. Then shall 2 be in the field, the one shall be taken, and the other left. And I've talked about in the previous 2 series, so not to backtrack on those too much, about how, of course, the field isn't literal. That's one of the biggest lessons that I learned coming out of religion and into spirituality, and one of the things that can take you deeper faster. There's a scripture that says, the deep calleth unto the deep, and that's the deep part. When you get out of the quote parable phrase, you know, it's just like when Yeshua was teaching, and he would teach to the masses in parables and kind of in simple stories, because he felt that they couldn't get the metaphysical meanings and the esoteric meanings behind it. And then later, those who had the power didn't want the masses to get the esoteric and metaphysical meanings behind it, because then we would get our power back. Then we would know who we really are. And so things have been flipped and simplified and dumbed down and turned into literal fairy tales, turned into literal nursery rhymes, so that we would stay in the darkness, which is to stay in our weakened state, which is to stay in a state where we're dependent on things outside of ourselves to manifest our power, to manifest our glory. Okay? And so similar to that, when I was able to get out of religion and really let the Most High teach me, I was able to dig deep into these words. The Bible is life. Those words are life. That is the truth. But they remain dead in religion. The word religion itself means to bind. And the deceiver gave you the definition when that came up, like, well, to bind, we're being bound here. What are we being bound to? Well, the deceiver told us, oh, you're being bound to God. You're being bound to Jesus. No, we were being bound to a construct. We were being bound to a certain meaning, an erroneous meaning that was given to sacred texts that were written thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years before 1602, when King James I of England commissioned that those sacred texts be taken, read, rewritten, reformed, remixed into an acceptable work of sorcery for the use of those in power. Now that was a whole big mouthful there, but what I'm realizing is that there's no time to go lightweight on this word. Either you will hear this and you will know that it's for you, or you will turn me off. And at this point, that's really what you need to do. If you are comfortable in your religion, if you're comfortable in your Christianity, if you're comfortable with what is going on in the world right now, this is not your church. Feel free to just put your little pinky up or put your little first hand up and just tip right on out of the building. Ushers, just let them go. Do not ask for an offering. Do not give them an envelope. Let them know that, first of all, there's no offerings lifted here anyway. This word is absolutely free. Now, if there is someone, because knowledge is not only powerful, but knowledge is valuable. So if there is anyone out there who receives value from what I'm saying, then feel free to Cash App, because that is also a blessing. To give is better than to receive. So if you are receiving something valuable, I always do encourage you to bless that person, because that is just an energy exchange that's kind of going to come back to you tenfold. So my Cash App is Letitia Lovely, but I'm really not on here for Cash Apps. I'm on here for castigating lies. That's what I'm on here for. But so one of the first things we realize is that the Bible isn't literal, so the field isn't literal. And it's also, I think that a lot of times when we hear about, quote, end time events, or that we hear about events taking place in the book of Revelation, which we're smack dab in the middle of Revelation now, in case there's anybody who is wondering what time it is. It's Revelation time. That's where we're at. But one of the things that we have to realize is it's not literal. What is being told are not literal events that are going to happen exactly the way we envision them. I always say that it's not going to look, this transformation, this destruction of Mystery Babylon, and this evolution into the new earth. It's not going to look like a Steven Spielberg movie or a George Lucas movie, or what's that guy, the one who just did Avatar. He stole James Cameron, the director who stole the script of Terminator and Matrix from Sophie Stewart. Shout out to Sophie Stewart, the melanated sister who wrote the phenomenal Terminator and Matrix storylines. Shout out to Sophie Stewart. It was Sophie Stewart who brought those brilliant characters and that brilliant message into our earth realm, and not James Cameron. Just wanted to make that clear, because we are in the times of truth, right? So since I brought up, blockbusters, let me give honor and praise to who honor and praise is due, and that's Sophie Stewart when it comes to The Matrix and to Terminator. Now, and I will also say that James Cameron did an excellent job with Avatar, especially the metaphysical meanings behind it. If you haven't, if you're not familiar with that, watch Avatar 1, watch Avatar 2, but James Cameron is still eating off the melanated plate. James Cameron owes black folk reparations. Okay, because the Avatar story is all about us. Anyway, I'm off script here, but I just want to reiterate that the field is a field of consciousness. The field is in our mind. Everything that's taking place is in our mind. The whole world is in our mind. Everything is perception, right? Because that is how that is how man was able to create this world. Spirit, the Most High, and our ancestors created the earth. In the beginning, Spirit created the heavens and the earth. The earth was created by Spirit. Man created the world we live in. I'm going to say that one more time. Spirit created the earth. Man created this world that we now live in. And it literally is a world created by words. What is my mantra, lovely? Words create the worlds we live in. Choose yours wisely. Make them lovely. And the reason that I didn't even know how deep that mantra was when Spirit gave it to me. Okay, I didn't even know how deep I was. But it's literally words that were used to create, such as the word religion. That means to bind, to literally bind us to a false construct created by man. So that's one of the ways that you can easily know what field you're on. If you're on a field created by man, and you're under the constructs of man, you're living in the paradigm of that a man has created, the narrative that a man has created. And if you're going by anything that's on mainstream media or that is in the popular culture, if you have conformed to this world, then you're living in the field made by man. What we're wanting to do, if you are starting to buck against that system, if you're starting to feel uncomfortable with the world that you've lived in all of your life, if you're starting to question religion, starting to question education, starting to question your government, starting to question the messages that you're constantly bombarded with through entertainment and sports, if you're starting to question and distrust the government and political affairs, if things are starting to look cray-cray to you and it's not hitting your thingamajiggy and your thingamajiggy, you know what I'm saying? If you're like, wait a minute, I know I'm supposed to believe X, Y, Z, and I know that they told me why, and I know that the news is supposed to be true and all of this, but this just doesn't feel right. If that's you, you're in the right pew. If that's you, you're in the right pew, because you are the eye of your understanding is being enlightened, and you're coming out of the darkness and into the marvelous light. Let's go to another scripture here, because this is what is going to be required of us in order to continue to navigate into this new earth. And I just want everyone to know it's a beautiful ending. We've already won. There's a war as above, so below. There's a war that's going on in the heavenlies, and there's a war that's going on down here. But I've got the good news. We win. Right wins. Light wins. Spirit wins. The 1,000-year reign of peace and tranquility and the new earth is coming. There is nothing that can stop it. But there is going to be a battle. There's going to be a battle. And not everyone's going to make it. It's going to require you to know, to study, to show yourself approved, A workman who need not be ashamed is you are going to have to rightly divide the word so that you can determine what is true or not, because most of what is going to be coming at you, my lovelies, in the next year especially, and in the next 2 years until 2025, and who knows what's going to happen after that, but you're really going to have that discernment. Otherwise, you're going to get swept up. And our first real test of that was in 2020. And those who were not of a discerning nature, those who followed the popular narrative, in fact, it was the only narrative that was allowed on a mainstream worldwide stage, found yourselves deceived. And it wasn't even, it was your fault, but it wasn't, because we're living in a world of the deceiver. And what does this entity do? All it's here for is to steal, kill, and destroy. It is the master deceiver. So it's not even like it was easy necessarily. That's what we've been programmed to be, is deceived. But I've got good news. I am here with good news. I am here with the gospel. I'm here with the answer. The answer is coming from Romans 12. I'm going to read 1 and 2, even though the main message is the second verse, where it says, I beseech you, I beg of you, I am pleading with you, like I did with some of you guys back in 2020. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of the Most High. See, I believe that the mercy and the grace, I still believe that a remnant of that remains in this hour, that the mercies of the Most High and the grace of the Most High is still with us. I believe that. I believe if it wasn't, then I wouldn't even be doing this, because it would be too late, right? I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of the Most High, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable to the Most High, which is your reasonable service. And do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. We must renew our minds. We have to unlearn every lie taught to us and renew our minds, that we may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will for the Most High on our lives. And I can just tell you something, lovelies, this ain't it. What this world is going through right now, this ain't it. This is not the will of the Most High. Living in fear, living in confusion, living in one tragedy after another, one calamity after another, bad news every day, all the time, one catastrophe, calamity, like all of this negativity. This is the will of the Most High? No. Spirit comes that we would have life and have abundant life. Do you feel that you're living in abundance right now? And this isn't just financial abundance. I mean, there's people with plenty of money who are as poor as hell, straight up. You know what I'm saying? But are you living in abundant peace? Are you living in abundant joy? Are you living in abundant love? Are you living in abundant contentment? Are you living in abundant passion? Are you living in abundant freedom? Are you living in abundant sovereignty? Are you living in abundant time? It is the abundant life that we're headed toward right now, but the deceiver doesn't want us to have that life, because it's going to disrupt what's going on right now. We have to be unconformed. We have to disassociate from this world, lovelies. That's the field. Those are the, We have to play this field correctly in order to have this promise of the Most High. That's why I'm here. So let's look at this word conform real quick, because this helps us understand and overstand what it means to not be conformed. Like if we are trying to disconnect with something, then maybe it's important that we know what we're connected to. So Cambridge Dictionary, for instance, describes being conformed, or the word conform, as to behave according to the usual standards of behavior that are expected by a group or society. And I love the example here. At our school, you were required to conform, and there was no place for originality. That's a whole sermon. I might preach that one day. I might preach that education conformity one day, but I'll just leave it here for now. That is by design. We were taught and forced to conform in the educational process. There was no place for critical thinking in our educational process. There was no place for originality in our educational process. There was no reason, there was no place to push back against what we were being told was the truth about anything. And that was by design, lovelies, because the truth of the matter was most of what we were being taught was a lie. Straight up, either a lie or built on one. So we were taught to conform. We're doing what we were taught to do. Another definition says to conform is to act in accord with the prevailing standards, attitudes, and practices of a society or group. It doesn't say to act in accord with the Most High. Oh, don't shout me down because I'm preaching real good. Why am I going back in my mind to church service? I'm a PK, y'all. It's just in here. I'm not religious anymore, but I'm still a PK. So listen to that, though. To act in accord with the prevailing standards. It doesn't even say the correct standards. It says what's the prevailing standard. What a group of people who we don't even know who said was the right standard, the right attitudes, the practices, the groupthink. There's another phrase. It is the collective conscious. What the collective conscious has decided, often with a programmed perception. See, a lot of times the decisions and the perceptions we have made them under a program that we didn't even know we were under, a program of brainwashing, a program of mind control. This thing goes deep. The deceiver. I don't think we've underestimated the deceiver. I think we truly had no idea who this deceiver was and who was its minions or its workers, or its, who was carrying out the will of the entity of the deceiver that is against the Most High, that is against Yeshua, who we as Christians, I say we in quotes because that's what I identified with for so long, we said we were for Yeshua, but we were conforming to the deceiver. Oh my Lord. To conform means to act in accord with the prevailing standards, attitudes, practices of a society or group, not the Most High. To bring into agreement, correspondence, or harmony. There's one more that I really like. It was under dictionary.com. I believe this one came from. Oh no, this one came from Merriam-Webster. To be similar or identical. See, no room for originality. Everyone think the same thing. That was so prevalent in 2020. There was one narrative that was identical. It was, in most instances, you could go from station to station and channel to channel, and the message was identical. That was an act of conforming the masses, conforming the world, not the earth, conforming the world to one narrative. to be obedient or compliant to said narrative. That's my words there. Or to act in accordance with the prevailing standard. And as we know, prevailing standards and customs change based on the time. So what's the prevailing standards in today's time was not the prevailing standard of our grandmama's time or our grandmama's grandmama's grandma. And Spirit right now is calling us out of the world, is saying to come out from among them, is saying to renew our minds, to be not conformed to this world, but to be transformed. We have to transform ourselves now that once the truth comes. It's something that I believe it was Maya Angelou who coined the phrase, when you know better, you do better. When you know better, you do better. When you know, you can't not know. Once you know, you can't not know. I don't know. Is that anybody's phrase? I'll put my name on it. If that's nobody's phrase, I'll attribute that to Letitia Lovely. Once you know, you can't not know no more. Once you know, you can't not know no more. I like that. Once you know, you can't not know no more. You can try to act like you didn't hear it or you didn't see it, but if you have asked the Most High, and I should have begun this with encouraging you to go within, pray, and ask the Most High to open your eye of understanding. Your physical eyes are open, but they're not seeing the truth if you are still in the conformity to this world. You're still in the field of the world, and you're wanting to get into the field of the Most High, because they are two different worlds. They are splitting, and it's going to become harder and harder to navigate both of them. At one time, we're going to have to choose who we're going to serve. And I believe we still have a little bit of time to navigate this earth and make the right choice, which is why I'm here. And next week, I'm going to go deeper into the fields and how we can tell the difference in the fields and how we can study to show ourselves approved. I will come with references, some of the books that have helped me come out of the darkness and into the marvelous light, and some of the channels that I listen to that may help, because I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. I believe if there's someone out there who's given a great talk or great video on something, I don't feel like I have to recreate it and regurgitate it into my vernacular. I can just simply drop the link and we can just share with each other, because that's what I believe all of us are here to do, is to share our knowledge, to share our truth, right? So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to ask a question of you though before next week. If you're listening to this or whenever you listen to it, I'm asking you to do this. If you really want to know the truth, if you really want to be free from those things that are so easily besetting us, if you want to be free from the turmoil, if you want to be free from the lies, if you want to be free from your situation, if there's anything in your life that you want to be free from, I'm going to tell you this, lovelies. It is the truth that will set you free. And it is the Most High, it is Spirit, it is the OCC, the original cosmic creator, divine source, divine substance, the I am that I am, that Most High, because there's many gods, but I'm talking about the Most High. Go within and pray with sincerity to know what the truth is, and I guarantee you, if you are sincere in that prayer, Spirit will show up and show out in your life when it comes to the truth that you need to know in this moment. And if you're listening to me right now, one of your prayers has already been answered, because I am one of many bridges that can lead you across those treacherous waters of tradition and of deception and of religion and bring you into the light of Christ. Because that's where we're at right now, where the Spirit is being poured out on all flesh, and I'm here to help you catch it. Until next time, lovelies, Love, light, and bliss.